Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into a super fascinating topic, the Nepal Paradox. We're looking at a country where massive, boundless on paper potential runs headfirst into a highly complex on the ground reality. It is a brilliant case study in economics, policy, and infrastructure, and the data tells quite a story. Let's get right into it. To really wrap our heads around this paradox, we've got to start with this absolutely jarring number right here, 32. Nepal has seen 32 governments in just 35 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That staggering level of political turnover sets the stage for the ultimate economic puzzle we're exploring today. Imagine trying to execute a long-term, multi-decade infrastructure plan when the political leadership is shifting almost every single year. It's the crucial backdrop to everything else we are about to see. We're looking at a nation brimming with natural resources, a hardworking youth population, and a strategic location right between India and China, yet somehow struggling to convert that raw potential into actual structural transformation. All right, Section 1, the Nepal Economic Paradox. Moving right along to Section 2, FDI, or Foreign Direct Investment, Commitments versus Reality. Now, what's really wild about this slide is the stark commitment-inflow gap. Get this, in just the first half of the 2025-2026 fiscal year, Nepal secured a massive 39.25 billion Nepali rupees in FDI commitments. Sounds amazing, right? But the actual net inflows, the cash that really arrived, sat at just 7.47 billion. Investors get super interested and make the commitment, but then they hit these objective structural constraints on the ground. We're talking bureaucratic hurdles, agonizing interagency coordination delays, and severe infrastructure deficits. And because of that, the actual cash injection just stalls out. Well, the government is completely aware of this, and they are actively trying to fix it. In February 2026, they rolled out sweeping reforms to really liberalize the market. As you can see, they've expanded the automatic route for foreign investment to 102 approved sectors. They completely removed the upper investment limit, ditched the minimum threshold for the IT sector, and shifted approvals to a fully online, automatic system. The goal here is absolutely clear. Make it easier than ever to invest and finally close that massive gap between foreign commitments and reality. Which brings us to Section 3, the Remittance Dutch Disease. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about another major pillar of Nepal's economy. Remittances. Money sent home by Nepali citizens working abroad makes up roughly 30% of the country's entire GDP. That is a huge, massive inflow of wealth. But we have to ask, is this wealth secretly causing an economic illness? In macroeconomics, there's this theory called Dutch disease. It's a dynamic where sudden, large inflows of foreign cash actually end up unintentionally shrinking a country's own domestic manufacturing and tradable sectors. Basically, the foreign money drives up local spending and wages, pushing resources toward non-tradable services and making domestic manufacturing way too expensive to compete globally. It perfectly illustrates how foreign money can sometimes be a real double-edged sword. And you can see this theory play out brilliantly, though a bit painfully, when comparing Nepal to Bangladesh. Both countries are huge recipients of international remittances, but the money behaves so differently in each place. In Nepal, the data shows remittances largely fuel household consumption. Basically, people use the money to buy imported goods and services, which leads to a contracting manufacturing sector. Bangladesh, on the flip side, uses targeted industrial policies to channel that remittance wealth into capital accumulation and investment. So Bangladesh uses the money to build up its manufacturing muscle, while Nepal essentially consumes it. All right, Section 4, the deindustrialization dilemma. So all of this builds up to the harsh reality of Nepal's shrinking factories. Check out this number, 4.87%. That is the tiny slice of Nepal's GDP that actually comes from manufacturing as of the 2023-24 fiscal year. To put that into perspective, back in 1999, manufacturing made up nearly 9% of the GDP. So instead of industrializing and growing its factory base like so many other developing nations, Nepal is experiencing premature deindustrialization. But the crucial point here is that this premature deindustrialization isn't just random. It's tied directly to these very real, on-the-ground structural bottlenecks. We've already mentioned the wild policy volatility of having 32 governments in 35 years. But add to that weak transport logistics, a heavy reliance on expensive imported materials, and a staggering skills shortage. With over 2,000 youths leaving the country literally every single day for foreign employment, factories just can't find the skilled labor they need to operate, let alone innovate. Next up, Section 5, Blackouts to Wasted Energy. Transitioning away from factories, we hit perhaps the most jarring paradox of them all, Nepal's incredible, yet highly ironic hydropower sector. Let's walk through this wild timeline. Between 2008 and 2016, Nepal was in the dark age, suffering through brutal 18-hour daily power cuts. It absolutely crippled the economy. Then, around 2018, thanks to new projects and better management, the mass blackouts finally ended. But look at where we are today. Because hydropower is seasonal, during the peak rainy seasons in 2023 and 2024, Nepal produced so much electricity that between 500 and 700 megawatts of clean energy were shockingly wasted. They literally had to just let the water spill away because they couldn't use or sell the power. And here is the ultimate so what of this whole situation. While up to 700 megawatts of beautiful clean energy is just washing away, 70% of Nepal's industries are still relying on incredibly expensive, imported diesel-powered generators just to run their plants. No way, right? How is that even possible? It's because Nepal severely lacks the high-capacity 400 kilovolt transmission lines needed to move that bulk power from the rural river basins down to the industrial corridors. Clean energy goes completely to waste while factories burn expensive diesel. It is literally the absolute definition of an infrastructure bottleneck. So, how do we fix it? Section 6, Breaking the Bottleneck. The good news is it doesn't have to stay this way. To break the bottleneck and really unlock the country's economic potential, the sources point to 4 essential steps. First, ensure long-term policy stability so investors can plan for decades, not months. Second, build out those high-capacity 400 kilovolt transmission lines ASAP to get the hydropower to the factories. Third, empower local micro, small, and medium enterprises to create domestic jobs so the youth don't feel forced to migrate. And fourth, execute regional power trade. And honestly, they're already making great strides here. They recently signed a historic agreement to export 40 megawatts of hydropower to Bangladesh using the Indian grid. These kinds of targeted infrastructure moves and regional agreements can absolutely turn the tide. So this leaves us with the million-dollar question. Can Nepal finally bridge the gap between its boundless on-paper potential and its highly complex on-the-ground reality? The resources are definitely there, and the market reforms are kicking off, but execution is going to be everything. What do you think is the absolutely most critical first step for Nepal? Keep digging into the data and keep learning. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Nepal Paradox.